Hey guys, I'm back for part 3 of our how to achieve a rustic or distressed or kind of antique look on your sign. So I don't know about any of you, but I am just floored that it's already Tuesday again. So, and hopefully, since some of you have said that these have been super helpful for you, I think you might be excited that originally I was going to do 4 parts, and we're in part 3, and I kind of thought of another way that I use quite often, and so I'm going to do it in 5 parts. So you get me for another week. But if you haven't watched the first 2, go back, watch part 1, part 2. You can search the videos in the group. Also, I have posted them to Sign Parties 101 page on there as well via YouTube, so you can easily find it there as well. Good morning. Hey guys. Okay, so today I'm going to be doing another technique that I love. I have this all over my house. Actually, I have signs made with it. My whole entire headboard is using this technique, and it does not require paint. So it's kind of fun. And so we're just going to get right into it. So if you're joining me, say hello and let me know. I love seeing pictures, you guys. So if you have done the part 1 or part 2 and made it into your sign or incorporated it somehow, post a picture to the group and let me see it. Tag me so I can see. I often don't see a lot of stuff because you guys are amazing and post often. So tag me if you want me to see it. But I do look through those and I love seeing what you guys have come up with. So good morning, everybody. Wait a second, did I just say good morning? It is afternoon here. Some of you, it might still be in the morning, but it is 1 o'clock Central Time, and we are gonna get into it. So I am just going to put this down a little bit. The other 2 signs that I did, I used 2 planks in order to get a sign that was about 18 by 7, and now I'm adding 1 more board to it. So this sign is about 18 by 10.5 because these are 1x4 pine boards, and 1x4s are actually 3.5 inches wide, and so this is 10.5 inches by about 18. It's really about 17.5. Tuning in from the Dallas airport. Ooh, where are you headed? And then they're just attached on the back by simple 1x2 furring strips you could use as well. I glue them, then nail them, and this is what we do 90% at my parties is planked signs, and so I love kind of the farmhousey look that they give. So that's what I'm going to do this sign today as. If you noticed, I picked boards that were a little bit more kind of distressed already. They're not perfect by any means. They have there's a little kind of gash in that board. The coloring is different with each board, but I think it brings out the beauty of the wood. Now that's one thing at parties. Here's a little pro tip. If someone kind of complains about, oh, there's a knot here, or my board isn't totally smooth or whatever, make sure they understand that this is real wood, and that is the beauty of real wood, is that each piece is going to be different, and depending on which board you get, you're going to have a totally different look and character than the person next to you. So just kind of remind them to bring that out. Yes, love their texture. Good morning, Shauna. Why do I keep saying good morning? It is afternoon. I have had quite a day so far. Okay, so good afternoon. And again, 18 by 10.5 planked signs with 1x2s on the back. So this is what we're gonna start. And you guys, remember, this technique does not use any paint. So I'm going to get right into it, and I'm going to actually start by giving it a gray base. I'm going to use Varathane Fast Dry. This is all I use at my parties, is the Fast Dry Varathane. Now, if you are going to use stain at your parties, do not use normal oil stain or it will not dry at all. I think I told my story last week a little bit in fast forward, but one of my first parties I did, and I was using regular oil stain. I could not figure out why the stencil wasn't sticking, and it was because I was using oil stain and regular oil stain, and I was sitting in front of the fireplace trying to make sure it was getting dried, and it was just a huge mess. So don't use regular oil stain. So this is fast dry, and this is what you want to use. So I'm going to use a 1-inch foam brush. This is what I use at my parties. I'm going to dip it in, and I'm just going to cover the whole board. It doesn't matter which direction you go in. I like going with the grain, but again, that doesn't really matter. I just want to cover it nice and well. And the thing about stain is you want to make sure that you wipe it off. Okay, the longer the stain sits on here, the darker it's going to be, because the more soaks up into the wood. Especially with a fast dry, what I like to do is do about half of the sign and then tell people to wipe it off. Stain is not meant to stay on your boards, it's meant to be wiped off. So we're just going to wipe it really good. And because of the way that we're going to do this technique, I'm actually going to layer different stain on top of it. So this doesn't even have to be covered super well. We just want to get a nice base coat down on the sign. So again, this is Weathered Gray from Varathane. And it's my favorite stain to use at parties. I don't use water-based, although you could, because that does dry fast as well. Britt, no, it is not scent-free. This smells like stain. But since it's a fast-drying stain, I don't feel like it holds the smell as long as an oil, like a regular oil base, because it dries fast, but you can tell it's stained. It does smell. And it is fast dry oil based. So if you're going to want to use a water base, then you can use a water base. I just don't like to have to tint mine, and so I just buy it the way it is. So again, we're just dipping it in the stain and getting all of the sides. So this technique is you're going to end up with a sign that looks, it's kind of an awkward position, that looks kind of like driftwood, kind of like a really weathered driftwood is what we're going for on this sign. I was actually going to bring out, I'll have to post it, I was going to bring out the sign that I have in my house, because if you know anything about me, it's that I change my decor all the time in my home. And this sign that I made with this technique has been in my house since we moved in and built 3 years ago. So if that tells you anything about how much I like the technique, because not much stays in my house because I change it so often. So I'm going to hold this up and I'm going to show you. It's not perfect. Like, I didn't worry about getting into the cracks or whatever, because I'm going to layer it with some brown. So just put down a thin layer, grab your rag, wipe it really well. And then here's where the fun comes in. We're going to set the gray aside, and we're going to take a brown color, which I'm going to use, same brand, dark walnut. You can use whatever kind of brown you have. Doesn't really matter. You can use, I have Kona, which is a nice color, early American, just a little bit lighter. I just like the dark walnut too. It's kind of a medium brown, so that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to use my rag this time. Now, if you guys have any questions, comment, and then when I can see them, I can't really see them right now. When I'm done, I'll go back and answer any. So what I do is just take my rag, ball it up, and dip it in my paint, or my stain. Get a little bit on my rag. And then just lightly go over it and add it into areas that I want to highlight. Now with a planked sign, I make sure I get into the grooves. Anywhere there's kind of a chip or anything like that, I'm gonna add in a little bit of brown. Now at first, it's gonna show up like that, and you're gonna go, oh my goodness, that's not what I wanted. Relax, it'll all blend in in a minute. So just kind of add it. I add it along the cracks. Kind of get down into it because I want those a little bit darker. And then what I do is I round the corners. Can you see that? Round the corners with some of the brown. And again, we're gonna go back and blend this all in. Kind of like sanding. It's the beauty of it. Okay. Now that it's all on the board, now I'm going to take a different part of my rag. A lot of times I like to go back to the first color, and then I'm going to just go over it, blend it in, and then adjust as necessary. So once that's blended in, it's still a little bit too choppy for me. So I'm gonna go back to my brown and I'm gonna blend that in as well. Now you can add as much brown or as much gray as you want. Totally does not matter. I wanted this a nice mix. And I'm gonna get some on the sides here. Some on the bottom. All right, so can you guys see that? It's starting to look nice and weathered. And now, again, I'm still seeing too much brown here. So I'm gonna get my gray and just add a little bit of gray in. And again, this is all personal preference. You can do this any which way you want. Oh yeah, that's better. All right. So I'm gonna move this up so I can see what I'm looking at here. So that's how we're gonna end that one, because I love it. And actually I'm gonna take my rag, get some, well, you know what, I'm gonna use my brush. I'm gonna get in some of these cracks that I didn't before. Wipe it off. There. Hopefully you can see that in this light. See how it just gives it a nice weathered kind of driftwood effect. And again, I'll post it different light. That makes it look a little bit different. But I feel like having the imperfect wood really, really brings this out because of like the driftwood fact, like it's old boards. But I love it. And now if I mix in my stencil color, which is going to be off-white, it gives it a total, I'm just going to move the comments for a second so I can see. I want to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. So we're going to add some off-white. These kind of, the grain in the wood kind of stands out and it's kind of highlighted with this technique. And so it's going to look really, really nice with my stencil, if I can, here it is. So this is the stencil for this week. The Laundry Company with a border. Ones with borders are my favorite. I absolutely love them. And the other one that I did in my house that I love is a laundry room one as well. But I will, same as always, post this SVG on the site for free when I am done. And I will probably end up mailing this to someone too, even though it's a little bit bigger. But I can only have so many signs around my house, you know what I mean? So, for those of you new to signs, this is 631. This is the only stuff that I use on a stained background. I recently have started using 810 on a painted background because it doesn't pull up the paint as much as 631 does. But this is 631 with AT60 transfer tape. You can also use HT55. It's not quite as clear, but works just as well. So that's my stencil material. I get them all at US Cutter. And I have a very large plotter. Well, I mean, it's a 24-inch cutter. I started with a silhouette though, so don't complicate things. That's one thing, if you're new and just starting out, don't feel like you have to have all the everything. My stencil must have cut weird because it's not wanting to come off my backing. Because I know if you're just starting out, all this mumbo jumbo talk about what stencil to use or what vinyl to use and what cutter to have and all that kind of stuff, just keep it simple. Super, super simple. That's all. I'm all about the simple. So you can start with just a silhouette. Some people use a Cricut. I've never used one, so I don't know how they work. But I started with a silhouette and 631 vinyl, and that's it. And then I expanded and went from there as I grew. You guys, see, this is sometimes what happens at parties where you just have to go with the flow, and I obviously have to adjust my my blade on my cutter because it's cutting too deep and cutting into the backing of my stencil, and I don't want that. But that's one thing, if you're gonna do parties, you need to, this is why you hold a couple practice ones with friends and family, is you need to practice. And normally these just come off lickety split, but it decided to cut a little deeper. There we go. All right. So again, 631, I'm gonna flip it over and I'm just gonna stick it down. Now, this is dry. This has been dried pretty much since I wiped it off. I have no downtime at my parties, so we literally brush on the stain, we wipe the stain off, and we prep our stencil and get it down. So there is no waiting. I don't bring fans, I don't bring anything like that. Even though it's an oil-based stain, it is fast dry, and it does dry fast. The can says in an hour, but that's not, you don't have to pay attention to that. So it is completely dry, and I'm gonna go ahead and lay my stencil down. I do not measure, for those that know me, so I'm just going to eyeball it. That's why I like Rustic, because it doesn't have to be perfect. Now, here's a trick. If you're doing a planked sign and you want to make sure it's straight, you can take your finger, or you can look, see how you can see the boards through your stencil. You can line it up that way and make sure it's straight. Or if you can't see any of that, like I know there's a board crease right here. Just take your finger and run it across that crack, and then you can see how you can see that line. Then you can line it up with the word, and I can tell that this side is a little bit higher, so I'm going to adjust that down. Now you can pick it up and move it if you want. You can't really do that when you have a painted background. So that's another reason why I really liked this. I really like the stained backgrounds, is because you can adjust if necessary. So I think that's about where I want it, and perfect is for the birds. So I'm gonna smooth it out, and I get my little putty scraper my burnisher, and I'm going to burnish it down, just making sure that those, the edges of the letters especially are down tight before taking the transfer tape off. And then I'm going to remove the transfer tape. Before I paint, I'll look at the questions quick, just to make sure I don't have a whole bunch at the end. You just want to pull this off, making sure your black stays down. Just like so. Now for paint, I get asked a lot what kind of paint I use. You guys, keep it simple. Get paint at your favorite place. If you really like chalk paint, use that. If you really like acrylic craft paint, like in these little bottles, use that. This is what I started with, was just the apple barrel from, I have my garage door open, so it's kind of bright in here. There. From Walmart, this is what I started with. I just got too big and too busy to be running around with all these bottles, and so I had Home Depot color match these that I love into gallon size paints. So I have all my gallons up there with the red tops, and I just pour them into my FIFO bottles for my parties. But I started using these, and I got my favorite colors, and so then I was thinking, like, well, how do I go from these little bottles to a gallon when I want to use these colors? Dump a little bit on a paper plate, let it dry, bring that into wherever you're going to get your paint, have them color match it, and that's how we do that. And so this one I'm going to use, this is the same as I used, was it last week, I think, is the antique, or no, this one is vanilla ice cream. I do really like, this one is a little bit more creamy. Antique parchment is the one that I color match to, so if you're looking for a nice off-white, apple barrel antique parchment is a really nice off-white. This has a little bit more yellow tones to it. It's a little bit creamier that way. So just put a little bit on your plate, grab your makeup sponge, hold the tall skinny side, dab with the fat flat side. Dip it into your paint, dab it off on your plate. Do not use too much paint. It will not matter how bumpy your boards are if you don't use too much paint. You will still have crisp lines. And if you just take your time, I will go kind of fast because you guys probably don't want to watch me. This is where the part where I wish like we could fast forward real time. So just very, very, very little paint, and I'm just gonna dab up and down on my design. And we're gonna do a couple coats. So the first one is gonna be very light and very blotchy, and that's okay. That's how you know you're doing it right. Now, if you're doing plank signs, see how I have that big gap? Do not try to get down with your paint and with your sponge. See how that's a pretty big gap in there? I don't care. I'm gonna act like it's not there. I'm just gonna dab right across the top of it, just like that, as if it's not even there, and I'm not gonna pay any attention to it. If after I peel my stencil off, that area bothers me, I can always go back with a little brush or a toothpick and touch it up. But if I try to squeeze my sponge down in there, it's gonna bleed and it's gonna get all over the place. So we're gonna just avoid that by going right over the top as if it's not even there. So again, just spongy. You just wanna get a nice thin coat down first. The messier it looks, the better off you are. That's how you know you're doing it right. And we're just gonna do this border quick. And then I will continue with the second coat. And that second coat is gonna thicken it up. It's going to make it a little bit more solid and not so spongy looking. And then after the second coat, we can tear off our stencil and our sign will be done. You could also take a sander to it. I don't think I'm gonna sand this one, which is unlike me. I like everything sanded and rustic. But I think with this one, we're just gonna leave it as is. So there's the first coat. So you see how it looks nice and spongy, blotchy? Exactly what you want. Now because you used a very light coat, this is going to be nice and dry already. So you can go back with the second coat and just fill that all in. I love doing the second coat because it's like, it's so satisfying. It was like spongy and blotchy, and then now all of a sudden everything looks filled in, and I'm not using any more paint than I did the first time. It's just that it just fills it in with that second coat. So I'll show you the difference. First coat, second coat. I'm gonna try to do this relatively fast. Oh, I was gonna look at questions, sorry. I'll have to do that. I took all the comments off. Well, I'll put them back on so I can see. Britt, any complaints from people at your workshops about the smell? No, there hasn't been. And we do them at restaurants and bars and all that kind of stuff. If anybody is concerned about it, you know, we just have them crack a window or something, but usually it's not bad at all. And I think it's because we put it on and we wipe it off so fast, and then, you know, we get rid of the rags and whatever. So there's really not a ton that's lingering. So I think it helps that it dries fast. But no, we haven't had complaints. What rigs are you using? I use just a shop rag. They're the White Ball brand. It's WYPALL. You can get at, I think at like Menards and Home Depot or any other hardware store. They're just like a really thick paper towel essentially, but just a shop rag. You could probably use those blue shop rags too that are pretty popular. You just want something that that is thick and, yeah, that's not going to tear or rip. Plus, it helps that my boards are really, they're pretty sanded nicely. I do not sand them. Here's another pro tip. Get high enough quality boards that you don't have to sand till your arm's falling off. When I started my parties, again, I used not the cheapest, but I used the cheapest pine that I could find at my local lumber company, thinking, oh, I'm gonna save money. And instead, I wasted so much time and my dad trying to get them smooth enough by sanding, and we planed them and all that kind of jazz. And then we just got smart and we decided to pay a little bit more per board, but we got them smooth. And now we don't sand them at all. We just sand the ends after we cut them down, but it saves so much time. And so literally my boards are smooth, and yeah, every once in a while, I mean, you're gonna have a little ripple in one or something, but overall they're smooth and they're amazing to use. So okay, oh, Erica, you can watch me do this all day. Did you see, did I post in here? I can't remember where I posted. I think I posted in here. Mine and my daughter's Bob Ross. I don't think I'm as calming as Bob Ross, but if you haven't seen that, I did a time lapse of my daughter and I, who is she's 11, my oldest daughter, and she has been getting into painting Bob Ross lately, and she convinced me to do one with her, and we time lapsed it next to each other. And I started out super frustrated, and I wanted to just throw my painting across the room. But it ended up pretty cute, and then she was like, let's do this once a day, and I'm like, oh boy. I don't think I could do it once a day, but he's a lot more nice to watch because he's so calm and his happy trees and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and start taking this off since I am done painting. See, I love the way that those gaps give the sign character. That's what I love about plank signs. I might sand it. I'll have to think about that. Okay, but that's it. There's the sign. And I'm gonna make sure you can see it in the light how it kind of looks like a driftwood. You got the browns in there with the gray. So there it is. And so that is a way to get the rustic look without any paint on your sign. Stand up straight. Oh, that's hard on my back. So yeah, and again, because of this light is shining right in here, I don't know if you can actually see the way that it really is. But I'll make sure to get a picture of it. Again, if you like it, comment on the picture, and I'll probably just pick somebody to ship this to as well. Although I'm thinking it might need it. I'm gonna sand it just because I have to. Bear with me. Now, I love it. I'm going to take my tack cloth, or just tacky, sticky, wipe off all the dust that just made, and give myself a sliver. And now, I love it. Okay. Yay. Okay, so here it is. Here's the up close. See what the sanding did? Took a little bit of that off, as well as a little bit of the lettering. And there's the completed sign. So, all right, I'm gonna go and look and make sure. I just absolutely love how the sander just makes it so, like, I love the character that it brings out. Okay. I'm gonna look at these, make sure I didn't miss anybody. I hate missing people's questions, so I'm sorry if I did. Just bug me on here again. Hello. All right. Yes, barnwood. It's kind of like a rustic barnwood. Amy, what color gray? This is a weathered gray from Varathane. Is what I did for the base, and then I did dark walnut, same brand for the top. Okay, what size FIFO bottles? I use the 12-ounce FIFO bottles. And am I crazy? No, although you would have to make sure after a while they do sometimes dry around the top, and then, you know, depending on how old the paint is, it can get clumpy on the inside. So you just want to make sure that you're using it often. I like the 12 because they're easy to handle. Oh, they're right here. Here's one. They're easy for people to handle, and actually people, meaning my instructors, because I don't let people touch the paint at parties. Sort of anal like that, but that's only because I learned the hard way and had one too many disasters with paint. But they're easy to grab, they're easy to store. I'm 100% mobile, so they're easy to take to parties. So yeah, so I do the 12 ounce. Love the Bob Ross paintings. Me too. Okay. These dimensions, this is almost 18. It's 17.5 by 10.5 because we're using three planks. 10.5 by 17.5. All right. Glad you guys are here. Hey, Sharon. Missy, you're so sweet. Hey, Elise. Julie, Stephanie. Oh, you just found me. Well, you might get sick of me. But awesome. Thanks for joining our group. There's lots of videos on here. Make yourself at home. So beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Oh, dancing, sanding, you know, same thing. I thought I had to think for a second. Did I dance? She said she liked my dancing, but she meant sanding. I have been known to dance, but not for a while. Okay. What stencil material? I used 631, which is all I use on my stained boards, although I am a fan of 810 as well for painted. Grit sandpaper, you know, after I did the last one, I had to go look. The stuff that I just used was, I don't even know because it came with my sander. But this other stuff that I used last week is 120, which is fine. The higher the number, the more gritty it's going to be. By the feel of this, it's somewhere in the 2s. So 200 and something is what I just used on this board, but it doesn't really matter. Even if you just have, last week I just took this actually and just went across my sign like that. You can do that as well if you don't have an orbital or a hand palm sander. Okay, good. Yes, Robin, I use 1x4s for the planks. Yep, I use 1x4s for all my plank signs, and then attach them with 1x2s or furring strips you can use for the back. Hey, Carrie. We won't get sick of you. We are addicted. Oh, well, thanks, Kim. I will be back for my Sign Party Central people tonight. We're having our Zoom sign party tonight together, and I'm super excited. And if you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about, Sign Party Central is our membership group where I train the people that are a little bit more serious about the business side of sign parties in that. And tonight we have a Zoom party, and I'm excited because I'm going to teach you all as if I was the instructor and you guys are my students. So I'll be back for that. Sign Party Central opens for new members on August 1st. And so if you're interested in that, you can find out more info at signpartycentral.com and join the wait list if you want to get notified when we open again. So, Erica, this file is not available for purchase because it's going to be free. I will post it on the site like I did, or in the group, sorry, in the group. I will post it in the group like I did with the last 2 weeks. If you are new and you didn't get the last 2 weeks, this is part number 3. I did a different technique last week and the week before, and I am adding one more. So originally it was just 4 weeks, but now you're stuck with me for one more because I thought of a different way. I do signs as well. They're the rustic look, and so I'm going to be on for 2 more. I create the file and then I post it for free in the group when I am done with the live. So this will be free in the group for you to use when I'm done. So, okay, tonight for Sign Party Central members, the Zoom is at 7:30. Go to the Sign Party Central's website, log in, and you'll find all the information along with the SVG file under Zoom calls tab. All right, perfect. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. I just love you. And I love my groups. I love all of them. So yeah, this is it. And I might just have to post a picture of my headboard because my whole entire headboard is this, I don't have a stencil on it, but it's this technique, and really depending on the grain of your wood, it's gonna look different, and so it's really awesome. So I'll post a couple things that I have in this technique so you can kind of see a different, kind of different views of a couple different other ones. So, okay, well, awesome. There you go. There's your laundry room design. So have a good day, you guys. We'll talk to you soon. I will be back next Tuesday for part 4. In the meantime, you know how to get a hold of me if you need to, and we will talk to you soon. All right, bye, guys.